Oh gosh. So like around the whole sustainability agenda, my kind of interest started when I was probably about 16 or 17. So I'm quite lucky that I come from a family of sustainability gurus. So my mother runs a forest school for outdoor learning for children, and that focuses all around kind of that biodiversity, nature, and kind of helping children kind of understand the importance of outdoor and nature and living like that. So she's always been really passionate about that side of things. And then my stepdad runs a eco homes, off-grid kind of planning, surveying company. And my parents right now are building a completely off-grid home. So that's everything from electricity to waste, down to their own food growing. So it's going to be fascinating once that's finished. So I think I've been quite lucky that I've kind of grown up in that environment. And then when I was thinking about what I was doing, going to go do at university, the only thing that I was interested in was sustainability. And so I could kind of see that that's the way that the world was heading. So I wanted to like get on top of that before it became a mega trend, and it now obviously is. So when I was looking at studying, I applied to do global sustainable development at Warwick. So focused around the sustainable development goals and kind of working towards a greener, sustainable future. So ended up doing that. And then kind of coming out of university, I wasn't really sure where that led to. And I think graduating 2 years ago, there wasn't as many sustainable jobs as there are today, like within the sustainability field. And I think it was still kind of like, oh, you either go into renewable energy or work for a waste contractor or something like that. And that's what a lot of people did. And I wasn't really interested in that. I liked the kind of overall, I liked my fingers in a lot of different pies, a lot of different projects. And I was much more interested in the kind of on the ground, actually making things happen. So then I joined Solihull College to be their sustainability officer. And that was kind of them on that service and helping them become more sustainable. And then the other side is kind of working within our college to actually better kind of skills, curriculum, as well as kind of estates campus side of things. So it's meant that I've had like a cross view of kind of staff engagement, student engagement, as well as kind of actual physical products and physical projects that we're running. So, and then from that, when I was at university, my final year, I decided to start my own business because what I noticed was that there was kind of a gap in the market within the cosmetics field for products that were sustainable and affordable. And I think that's something that we forget within the sustainability field. It's sometimes seen as something quite elitist, that you need to spend a lot more to achieve a kind of sustainable product, inverted commas. So what we focused on to actually achieve that is reducing the cost of manufacturing. So by doing that, we focused on upcycling, so actually creating value from waste. And that meant that the whole entirety of our manufacturing processes was so much cheaper, so that we could then pass that on to our customers in that sense. And so when we started kind of working on the idea, I think the biggest thing for me was trying to find an issue. So so obviously for us, we've got two sides. So we've got the issue with the cosmetics and beauty industry that's really unsustainable, from like literally living and thriving off plastic. So that's microplastics within the products themselves and also housing them in plastics. So that was one side for us, kind of going down that route and making sure that we focus away from plastics completely. So the biggest thing within the beauty industry that we were really interested in and really interested to solve was that microplastics issue. So you'll probably find in your kind of generic high street serums, etc., that there'll be absolutely billions of polyethylene particles. And that's the big issue, because obviously once that's washed down our drains, that's going into our oceans and then having a massive impact there, because it's not able to be taken out of the sewer system. So because they are so small. So basically for us, we found that exfoliants were the biggest issue there. So they were actually utilizing microplastics completely in everything that they were using. So we focus on, let's try and figure that out first. That's like the biggest issue there. Let's try and work out a way in which we can make exfoliants less environmentally damaging. And then on the other side, we've kind of got, moving away from the beauty industry, the reason why we focus on the beverage supply chain is because the waste streams there just aren't really thought about too much. So everyone talks about food waste. So loads of companies are trying to solve the food waste issue, from Too Good To Go to Olio to actual companies themselves reducing their food waste. But no one really talks about the beverage supply chain. So like, obviously, to think about kind of beer, wine, coffee, tea, all of that, which as a society, we drink millions and millions and millions of litres every single year. And what people forget about is that actually to produce these beverages, there's a huge list of waste products from them. And from kind of the research there that we started off doing, we found that coffee was the most environmentally damaging. So as a UK, it's our biggest beverage that we drink, and it is kind of globally as well. So that's where we wanted to start. So we wanted to start with the worst kind of beauty side of things, the worst kind of products out there that were actually environmentally damaging, and then looking at the beverage supply chain, what was the most environmentally damaging byproducts there. So that's kind of where we ended up with the exfoliant and the coffee as a byproduct, and then kind of focused on that as our step forwards and taking that forward and trying to figure out ways to bring it back into circulation, giving it a new lease of life and stopping it from going to landfill. So coffee is a byproduct. So when that goes to landfill, it's a massive producer of methane gas. So it's something like 35 times more potent than CO2 over a 100-year period. And it's something that actually people forget about. So people are always talking about carbon footprint, the carbon as a greenhouse gas, but actually methane as well as a massive impact on that kind of realm. And coffee is a huge culprit for that. And so that's kind of why we focused on that area. Yeah, definitely. So I think we as a company have launched very differently to what your typical kind of business out there would. So I started a business in my final year of uni, and as you can imagine, you have literally no money as a student. And so I'd worked my whole year and my final year to actually like fund the business to start. So that's basically what I did. So we launched the business on so we got some funding from university. So we got £500 funding, which at the time I was like, whoa, that's so much money. Amazing. We'll definitely be able to launch with this. And obviously we couldn't. So we kind of had to bootstrap completely from the beginning. And I basically just put my savings into the business, took a bit of a leap. So the reason that I actually did that was because I had a graduate scheme job lined up for a massive corporate, one of the big five, to go into, and that actually got cancelled because of COVID, and they were kind of passing out a load of redundancies, a load of kind of stripping down the jobs completely. And when that happens, I kind of took a step back and actually was like, okay, Scrubbee is just an idea right now, but I actually think that we could do quite a lot with this. And I'd always known that I'd love to start my own business and kind of be my own boss in that respect. And so then I just basically took the leap and I was like, okay, you've worked for the last 9-10 months, let's just give it a go. And I think the COVID kind of pandemic also made me have a bit of a rethink, and I was like, do I actually want to go into a 9-to-5 for the rest of my life? And I think my thing was like, no, I don't. And so yeah, I just basically took the leap then, and I think it was a bit of a shock to the system. But then we eventually, so about August time, we went through kind of a grant funding round and were successful in that. And I think that was kind of the next step for us. Actually people believe in us as a company, and are willing to put in that money without taking equity. So I think that was a big step for me, kind of actually believing in ourselves a lot more. Managing my life to work balance is really chaotic. So the good thing I'm really lucky for is a really understanding here at the college, because I work part-time for them. I am in the college more days than I kind of would be if I was just working like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But they're really understanding of letting me kind of manage the business around kind of what I'm doing. And I'll, for instance, if I'm taking this call now, I'll work an hour later today, or I'll be taking calls on the way to work, etc. So I'm really lucky in that sense. And the thing is that actually having my business and connecting with other businesses, with the Chamber of Commerce, with kind of every support business growth hub that there is out there, has actually really helped in this role. So because I work directly with businesses, I'm actually able to say, because my role is split into 50-50, working with businesses, kind of consulting them, and then supporting the college on their kind of movement towards sustainability. And it's actually really helped kind of having the private side and the knowledge of working in my own business and running my own business to actually support the businesses, because I know what funding there is out there for sustainability. I know what support there is out there, and I'm kind of immersed in the kind of networking scene that actually I can say, oh, look, one business I'm working with, there's this opportunity I think you'd be really good for. And it's actually enabled them to like progress a lot quicker. So I like, for instance, there's a business I work with called Reunitize, and you probably know about. So I started working with John as like consulting him on sustainability, and he kind of came to me saying, look, there's actually a massive issue that I've got that I need funding really quickly. And what we basically did together, we just like worked over a couple of days together to try and get him through that, and we were successful in doing that. And I think I wouldn't have that knowledge if I didn't have my business outside of work. So it's actually, they completely cross over all the time. And whenever I'm going to an event for Scrubbee, I'll literally be like, oh, actually, if you're struggling with sustainability, you can come have consultancy under like this project. So it's really interesting, and I think they've been really beneficial to one another, kind of growing the business as well as kind of growing the outreach side and the kind of portfolio of the college as well. So it's been really interesting. Yeah, it's not a secret anymore. So we're about to release in a couple of weeks a big report that we have done with two scientists we work directly at UOB with, so University of Birmingham. And what this report will basically showcase is that but yeah, we're really fascinated in the coffee side. We're taking that forward. We're actually releasing a new product in a couple of weeks' time on the 23rd of March, which is going to be focused around body exfoliants. So we've got our facial exfoliants, we've got our body exfoliants, and our kind of coffee brand side of it is then complete. What we're now focusing on is the other byproducts within the beverage supply chain that are really damaging and also are really popular, so overly consumed in society. So we're looking at beer and wine as byproducts now. So that's going to be our next step. So we're just releasing this report at the moment. So we've looked into what the byproducts are, what the environmental damaging like aspects of them are, and all the statistics around how much goes to waste in the UK, the waste streams, what happens when they get to landfill, etc. Kind of the scientific chemistry side of it and how that affects our soil, how that affects our waterways, etc. And then what those can actually be used for. So we've done a lot of research into what the chemical property makeup of the byproducts are and how those can be transitioned into using them for cosmetics. So we've got a really, really good backing on that now. And the next step for us will be actually prototyping and formulating those recipes to see how they work, and then bringing them out to market. So that's where we're planning to go through an investment round kind of end of August time. Completely circular system. And I think that's the next step for us, is looking at every single step within our journey and how we can make that more circular. So because obviously I come at it from like my sustainability officer, my sustainability consultancy role, so I'm constantly thinking about like how we can improve. So the interesting thing is that as a beauty industry, as a cosmetic company, we actually come at it from the founder's perspective as a sustainability consultant. So it's not like I'm running the business and I'm passionate about sustainability and then I'm trying to embed it in. It's literally my daily life thinking about how things can be more sustainable. And it's always about that practice what you preach. So we literally are looking at the moment at our entire supply chain, who we're working with. So we're trying to think of best ways to actually get that across to our audience so that we can showcase to other companies like this is how things can be done. Like it doesn't need to be that difficult and it doesn't need to be costly. And I think that's one of the biggest things that companies are always so afraid to become more sustainable, because they're like, oh, it's actually going to cost us so much more money. But it's really not. And I think if we look at the way the government's moving at the moment, so they just brought out on Friday that there's going to be a new plastic tax that comes in really, really soon. And I think businesses aren't really aware actually of how this is going to impact them. And I think we always want to stay ahead of the wave, we want to stay ahead of the curve, and we want to make sure that everything that we're doing is actually benefiting customers, benefiting the environment, and also benefiting us as a business. So a lot of the time, businesses assume that becoming more sustainable is going to actually cut their profit margins, but it doesn't need to be that way. And I think that's going to be a big step for us. And eventually down the line, what we want to do as a company is actually provide that support to other businesses to help them on that journey, and show them kind of what Scrubbee's done as a case study in moving forward in that sustainability field. Yeah, I think staff retention is a massive issue right now. And that's what we're seeing, like kind of across loads of different companies. Kind of hiring the good people for a role is so difficult. And I think like Generation Z, like millennials, don't want to work for companies anymore that aren't doing good. And I think like from anyone that I'm speaking to that's coming out of university, anyone I'm speaking to that's like leaving jobs, and I think I've read a really crazy statistic that like 70% of people are planning to leave their jobs or have left their jobs during the pandemic. And that's really scary, because if you're not actually making sure that your staff are happy and they actually believe in what the company does, like we as a company are so lucky that we've got a really strong team that is so passionate about sustainability, so passionate about skincare, that they don't want to leave at all. And I think that's what we've had interns that have come and worked for us that are supposed to be with us for 3 months and have ended up staying for like 9-10 months, because they're just so passionate about kind of driving forward this. And I think that honesty and transparency is another aspect of businesses that's not catered for enough. And I think that's kind of what, every time that I'm speaking to businesses, I'm like, right, you need to make sure that you're pushing forward this agenda right now, because you're going to really struggle to keep staff on board. And if you do want to employ young members of staff, it's going to be really challenging if you're not pushing forward that agenda.
And so one final question for you. So what piece of advice would you give to other female founders that are looking to establish, whether it's in the beauty industry or in other sectors, sustainable businesses?
Oh gosh, I think advice is a really, really scary one, because I think I still definitely struggle with a bit of imposter syndrome. So I hate kind of like telling people what advice to give them, but I think probably like from my experience of being a female founder, I would say that we as a kind of species do definitely struggle with believing in ourselves. And I think something that I heard really recently at a talk was that a lot of the time women are not kind of going for roles and not challenging their salary and not challenging like kind of that moving up as quickly as men. And I think that's still an aspect of society and kind of the way in which we're used to working. But interestingly enough, sustainability recently as a field was deemed to be the best field to be in as a woman, to leapfrog and to get higher salaries a lot quicker. So what we're seeing is that as a field, women are going into it a lot more than men. I don't know whether that's because of kind of our nurture caring capabilities, or whether that's just because we're aware that this is where things are going. And it's an aspect as well that men don't quite see it at the moment as a field that's respectable to go into. And I think that's all that haven't got enough salaries or high enough salaries for men to go into. And that's just kind of like an opinion that I think I've got. But I think, so what came out was that women are jumping into careers in sustainability from kind of business strategy roles, operation roles, into these fields that are then really quickly within big corporations becoming hugely important. And then they're jumping from salaries like 30k to 60k to 70k really quickly because of this mega trend of sustainability. And I think that is something that women right now need to jump on, because like it's obviously where things are going. And I think at the end of the day, if people don't accept that that's where things are going, their business is going to be left behind. And I think what we've been really lucky with, I mean, since coming out of university, graduate salaries in sustainability were like 25, 26,000. Now they're 35, now they're 40. And I think that's something in which women need to have discussions with other women if they are in the sustainability field. Like, are they actually being paid enough in this field? Or are they jumping into careers quickly enough? And I think it's a little bit different from being obviously founder CEO, but it's really important that we realize that this is actually an opportunity right now for women to really progress in their careers quite quickly, because this is a field that's growing exponentially. Like, this is the new megatrend. This is where businesses are heading. You can see it from the NHS completely changing their procurement, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, that they're not going to work with suppliers that don't have a net zero goal. So things like that are coming out every single day is a really good opportunity for this to kind of be a leapfrog for women in this field, hopefully.
We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave us a like and don't forget to subscribe. And why not check out some more videos on our channel.